So welcome to episode 5 of intx, where we have career conversations in tech. Today's guest is product design lead, educator and entrepreneur Lola Salehu. After graduating in real estate from the University of Lagos, Nigeria, Lola moved into the UX and the product design sphere, where she quickly ascended the ranks to senior product designer. She currently works at Paystack and Flick, as well as a number of other endeavours such as OpenSource Africa and a fellow at the Design Leadership Forum. And then if that wasn't enough, Lola also co-founded a Web3 startup with Kingdom, which was ultimately acquired by FutureAfrica for a 6-figure sum. So considering you're quite recently out of university, you've done a lot. So looking forward to hear how you've been able to manage all those things. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Luke. Seeing as you already did my intro, I'm not even sure where to start at this point. But in terms of like how I manage this, I'd say that I've always kind of been like a jack of all trades, just dabbling in things that I find interesting. I mean, the fact that I went to university to originally study real estate is something that people are surprised by. And mostly because how I got interested in technology was I was being introduced to it by a friend of mine that was practicing a presentation for like teaching an introductory course to HTML. And she basically introduced me to tech, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. I should look into it. So I pretty much decided then, after doing like a few classes, to not continue to pursue real estate as a profession. And then I got an internship job as an information technology specialist before fully moving on to software engineering. This was after like doing a series of like self-learning processes, obviously, like taking courses and reaching out to people that were already practicing software engineers. And so, yeah, I did this for 2 years. And then eventually I found content strategy, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And so you notice the common theme being like, whatever it is I find interesting, just like explore it, right?
Yeah.
And then while working as a software engineer, I noticed the guy on my team, because, obviously working on the development team, you work with a product designer and other people as well, being a cross-functional team. So I noticed that this guy it seemed like he was having way more fun than me, basically, because his turnaround time was so quick. And at the time, that was what my idea of design was like, this guy seems to be solving the same problem as I am, but his turnaround time is way quicker. So I should look into that. And then, I ended up fully transitioning into product and experience design at first. And I did a lot of this while still in school. And now I've basically had people jokingly refer to me as a sweet army knife for products, because I've worn a lot of hats on different teams. Now going back, I've been a front-end engineer, product and experience designer. I've managed communities. I've managed products, and recently like co-founded one of mine as well. And now I'm leading product design at Flick. So it's actually been quite a journey. And okay, I'll pause there and see if
So then for your like apprenticeship type thing, was that whilst you were at school as well?
Yes, it was.
So you're still managing.
It was actually yes. But it was actually quite easy for me to get that one, because it was a family friend's company. Right. And so I was like, oh, I'm tech savvy. I want to help you guys out with your information technology needs. And they were like, oh yeah, sure. And I did that and segued into software engineering that way.
Yeah. And so then you were in that kind of front end space and then transitioned into product design. You're saying, is that like because you can get a faster turnaround from your designing a product, or it's from start to release, or at least to ideation faster?
I mean, that was my perception at the time. I thought it was going to be a piece of cake compared to struggling with my code every other day. But eventually I got to find out that it's not exactly about it being a piece of cake. It's more like using different tools to solve the same problem.
Yeah. And so then was that your product designer role? Was that at Joss Play?
Oh no, that was before Joss Play. That's Event Brie.
Right.
The one where
yeah. And so what is like the day-to-day entail of a product designer?
Okay, so going off, my current role as a product design lead basically allows me to bring together, the breadth of experiences I have in problem solving, strategy, creativity, and innovation, and basically just like solving problems. So I would look at product design as what it responds to. What problem are we setting out to solve as a team or as a business? Who has the problem, and what do we want to achieve realistically? I'd say the most synonymous word for product design is problem solving. So, yeah.
Right. And so do you think that's what would make a good product designer, as a good problem solver, in essence?
For a good product designer, it's a lot of things. And I would say that my perspective of what a good product designer is has changed over the years, like given my experiences. But off the bat, I would say like a good product designer is someone that knows well enough not to dive headfirst into a problem without properly attempting to set a scope for it, in the sense, because then what happens is if you start out thinking that it's about like designing pixels and pretty designs and screens, you underestimate the amount of work it takes to get to the output that is required. And this can be very expensive for the business in the long run, in terms of like the resources expended, like time and money. They're essentially like paying other people to build this. So you want to be very sure about the problem that you're setting out to solve. I mean, even with areas like generative research, you see that there's a research plan that highlights what you want to achieve, or major questions that you want to answer when you're actually going out there to figure out what problem your team needs to solve. So that's also basically setting scope. And in other words, it's getting the context that is necessary to make sure that you have all the information you need to solve problems for the business and for your customers in the best possible way. So yeah, basically getting context. Another thing I would say, a good product designer has to be good at people relations and collaborating, because essentially you have to get a lot of buy-in from stakeholders. So basically managing stakeholders, because you're not the only one building the product. Great products are never built in silos. So you need to work with different people and different basically different moving parts to make sure that you're solving the right problems in the right way. And in terms of the people, these people could be like, it could be your teammates or it could be users, but essentially you're collaborating with these people to find the right way to solve the problem that you're attempting to solve. And in most cases, you also need to get your stakeholders to understand how you want to deliver the solution or what you intend to accomplish. It's like similar to product management. In order for your team to successfully build a product, everybody has to be aligned on what is happening. You have to collaborate with everyone, and we all have to have the same idea of the solution. So yeah, and that is very critical to the success of any project. So I'd say a good product designer needs to be able to do those things. And which brings me to another point, actually. You should also be empathetic and figure out ways to put people at the center of your decisions, whatever decisions that you're making and stuff. I can go on and on, actually, but yeah, those are like quick tips or being a good product designer.
Yeah, no, it's quite eye-opening as well, as I think when people just hear the word, or at least I'll speak for myself, when you hear the word product designer generally, it sounds like quite a creative role, but it sounds as if it's actually quite a kind of managerial, or not managerial, but like it has a lot more that encompasses it than like sitting, designing a product per se, like drawing. Did you find that it was more or less creative than you imagined it to be?
Well, yes, but I wouldn't say that I shied away from it being creative. I think it's more in terms of, I wouldn't say creative is a word that fully encompasses it. I think like innovative is the word, because yes, you do have to be creative, but not, it has limits in terms of the scope, like I said, and the problem that you're trying to solve and the context. So it's more like creativity within limits, but also directed at like solving a problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, which is quite actually similar to coding, because after the designer, like while the entire team is innovating how to solve the problem, the developer is also thinking how to like actually deliver this in actual code and make it live. It's just that I feel like development is very logical in terms of like, this function does this and you add this to do this, versus, really thinking outside of the box. Sometimes with design, there are no guiding rails or no principles. It's more about like what you feel works based on what you've observed from people, and you really have to like observe people. So
yeah, no, I can see that. Yeah, and so for someone, if they were looking to go into product design, you have went in from a UX background, so and you have a good understanding of product, I would imagine. How would someone who has no experience start to look in getting into product design?
Well, I'd say there are several ways, especially nowadays. There are quite a multitude of courses and resources that say, oh, this is how you can learn product design, or these are the basic functions. One thing I can say though is you definitely want to just start out with like a roadmap, because due to the fact that there are so many resources out there for beginners right now, it might be overwhelming at first. You see that there are a million and one things to learn, and then you're not even sure how to start. So I'd say that the very first step should definitely be just like figuring out the roadmap for what you want. And now if you Google roadmap for being a product designer, or things you need to learn as a product designer, you like see a couple of them. Actually, my time, I started out solely focusing on user experience. So I think courses also help, because then they give you like the structured learning path. You need to learn this, and then this comes after, and whatnot. So yeah, I started out with user experience and just learning everything that had to do with that, and then segueing into like user interface design, and then now merging those together into the context of providing value to a team in terms of product design and solving business problems. So yeah, and funny enough, my transition from being a digital technology user to a decision maker started in a funny way, because like I said, I wanted to fill a user interface design position at the time while looking at the designer on my team. And as a front-end engineer at the time, I met a lot of the qualifications, except that I didn't have a lot of design experience. So as a result, I chose to like educate myself through like online courses and professional accreditations. And then while studying, my knack for problem solving and intellectual curiosity made me further my interest in design. And I realized how, outstanding product experiences can have a big impact on the success of a business. So then I decided to devote the rest of my career to solving critical business problems with design, but also like within the context of like products, building products. So,
yeah. So, and I think that alludes to another good point, that it's not that you kind of fall into that role. It's you're following. One, you're following your intellectual curiosity, but two, you're actively working hard in your spare time to realign your career from UX to product designer. And so doing that whilst also studying real estate, did you ever have any idea of studying computer science? Did that ever cross your mind?
Well, yeah, I did, but at the point where I found out that this is a viable course to study or a viable career path, I was already like in my second year of real estate. So I was like, I'll just see this through. And it also didn't seem like the barrier to actually practicing in tech required you to have a computer science degree. And so that excited me, because my thoughts weren't, oh, I need to then go start the course in computer science degree in university, but rather, oh, I just need to like learn this, and I'm sure that I can start practicing with little or no barriers to entry. So that was great.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good running theme, that for computer science, you don't have to go to university to get into tech. They'll say you can just learn it, and as you're saying, like, all the information is online. If you think something that you want to do, you can just look up on YouTube a roadmap to whatever it is, and there'll be someone out there to tell you. But I see you quickly went from product designer into lead product designer. How was that transition?
Oh, it was quite interesting actually, because starting out, the functions that you carry out starting out as a junior product designer or as a senior product designer are quite different from when you manage a team, for example. So of course, it happened like naturally, like when you work hard at your job and you like excel, you get like promoted, or in this case, you could also like switch jobs and get the role that you want, having shown the qualities that require you to have that role, obviously. But yeah, so I would say that the transition has, of course, included like now being responsible for the outcome of the performance of my team, for example, or having to be directly responsible for people's career growth, mentoring them within the confines of the workplace and also outside. And also, being able to, because that's actually one of the things, you also have to be a really good communicator while you're liaising with stakeholders. You're liaising on behalf of other people as well, trying to defend the design decisions of not just yourself, but of your team members, and tie that to the business impact and how it should impact the business, try to get buy-in from stakeholders, because it was way easier, probably as an individual contributor, practicing myself and saying, oh, this is why I think that we should do it this way, because I've observed the customer and I think that it would impact the business in X ways. But now you're doing it on behalf of people, so you really have to build a relationship of trust with them, enough for them to also personally communicate to you what their differences are, and then now be like the solicitor for them to the rest of the company and say, this is why I think I'm gonna fight for this design, because we are very sure that it will move X metric when we implement it this way. So I would say like it's been really exciting and interesting.
Yeah,
not to say delicious.
That definitely sounds like a unique challenge of managing a team that are in the stage of still proposing ideas. So it's not that you have the idea to go build and you're trying to defend how it will be built, which is one thing, but you're actually trying to defend the fact that it should be done at all in this way. So yeah, that must have been interesting, especially having to defend other people's decisions. Yeah, for sure.
Yes, exactly. So so you just have to be sure, and you also have to like exceed some sort of confidence in your team as well, so that they trust you to lead.
Yeah.
Which is why communication is really important, obviously.
Yeah, but definitely. And so then you moved into a lead position pretty fast. Was that, I imagine it'll be a mix of both, but was it a conscious effort to kind of move up in your career fast, or was it this drive you had to create good products kind of just pushed you because you were just wanting to build good products? So ultimately you become the leader of a team instead of just an individual contributor to make a greater impact?
Well, yeah, I guess it would also be attributed to the fact that I do wear a lot of hats. So aside, I'm not just like bringing product design to the table. I'm bringing my experience as an engineer, as a designer, as somebody that leans into communities, as someone that has managed products and whatnot. So I guess it's a combination of all these things, and then Sorry, I think I've gone off. What was the question? You can just cut
No,
it
no,
short.
it was just about how moving up in your career, was it an active choice for the career or an active choice of just trying to create good products, or both, or
Oh,
things?
yeah, I think I definitely say it's both. I subconsciously started to like develop this like really great tenacity for like products and product thinking and what it takes to actually build for impact. Also being like having been an entrepreneur myself, you
Yeah.
know, I've had like a lot of in-depth experiences with like different facets of technological innovation. So I could say that this really like brought me face to face with like what practical ways to actually build for impact. And these are stuff that I imbibe into my work. And I guess I could say that, yeah, it's paying off in that way, you know, whether it's like getting a promotion at work or like getting external recognitions outside of work for stuff that you do. It's basically just me having fun with like wanting to like build great products and put it out there. So
Yeah. So like it could be abstracted into you just want to make a positive impact and you see your skills can be used in developing good products to do that. Something like that. Yeah. And so you mentioned a few times wearing lots of hats. I know that quite often when people are trying to move up their career, they can often be advised to pick certain skills and try and specialize. Would you say that you're wearing of lots of hats and following your natural broad curiosity has actually been a positive driving force in your career progression?
well, yes, actually, because I mean, it depends. I've done a lot of 0 to 1 projects. So the skill set that you require when working with a team that is building from the ground up definitely favors you if you wear many hats and you have like generalist skills.
Yeah.
So in those situations, you can advance rapidly. But it would depend if you were working at a larger organization, for example, like Meta.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on where basically depending on the stage of where the company is at, that would determine like the particular characteristics that they appreciate in the designer. Because then they might want somebody that is like fully specialized in motion. They just want you to come and do like a bunch of exciting motion projects to like delight users and whatnot. That's very
Mm-hmm.
different from someone that they want to take a product from the ground up and then maybe like scale it to different continents where they're at, or basically like validate if it's worth investing millions of dollars into a new business idea and whatnot. So there are different skill sets, and I wouldn't say that I would advise anyone to like optimize either or. It depends on your personal career goals and what you want, and you
Mm-hmm.
know also the kind of teams that you're looking to work for. So
Yeah. Yeah, but if someone does feel that natural inclination to do multiple things, would you then advise them to look at joining smaller companies to kind of
yeah,
get the most
definitely.
fulfilling? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Because like, you know, with smaller teams, you know, it's just a group of people wanting to build something great. And then you guys are really working closely together. Sometimes you have to double back on like, you know, showing up for your team in one way or the other that is not in your job description.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay because essentially like the greater output is, you know, putting out a great product and validating it with users and whatnot. But you know, with larger teams, it's mostly like you have like pretty defined roles. Chances are, if you're trying to do something else, maybe somebody else is already hired to do that, and you're doing their job. Or
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, especially it's like when it's different departments get in the mix and stuff, siloed. But then you went on for quite a little while into Paystack. How was that move into there?
moving into Paystack.
Yeah.
Oh, it was actually quite interesting because I've moved around industries, but that was like my first-hand experience working in the fintech industry,
Mm-hmm.
and especially like just fintech for the African payment space is entirely different. So it was a really great learning experience all around. Just being able to build products that you could see impact the lives of the people around you. For example, like maybe my aunt being able to like set up her business because I work at the company that enabled payments globally. So now she's able to like just do that with like a few clicks, and I'm like, wow, yeah, I contributed to this. So yeah, that was actually quite inspiring. One of those things.
Yeah, quite a rewarding role then.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're still working at Paystack as well as Flick, where you're product design lead. What's your role entail at Flick?
Okay, yeah. So my role at Flick is basically like leading the design and delivery of our product solutions. So essentially, it's a software as a service company, and I'm virtually like devising strategies to help us capture new market segments that serve social media managers and marketing agencies. So it's basically like in the marketing industry this time,
right?
And we're just trying to establish ourselves as the go-to for all your social media marketing needs. And right now it's actually quite exciting because we are now exploring with the recent developments in AI and machine learning. We found like a way to like really improve our core value proposition, and that has like brought back several well, that's obviously like making me very excited because actually during my time also at Paystack, one of the teams I worked with was the fraud and risk management team. And we managed to train our own machine learning models to like detect fraud and whatnot in transactions with merchants and stuff. So taking that core experience with machine learning, like designing with AI and machine learning, designing great products with AI and machine learning rather, and bringing it to Flick, where we're now making it fun because it's in the context of like social media, and we're like infusing AI into our product as well. It's making me really excited to be working here right now. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And is Flick, is it quite a small company at the moment? Like, is it a startup kind of culture?
It's a startup, but the design team as well developed. We're a team of 4. So I lead the team with we have a brand person, a marketing designer rather, product designer, and a researcher. So we're just like a close knit team, the functions that are necessary kind of and and the engineering functions, and the rest of the company with business and product and whatnot.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But no, that's cool. It's I've heard it now a couple of times with a few podcasts, this callback to a previous role helping your current role, which I find is quite interesting. Of the, like, you're at a kind of big company, you learn something, and then once you've learned it, your next opportunity, you're like, aha, I know how to now do this to leverage this next opportunity. And so it's always just that learning from past experiences. And it seems as well that to be somewhat coincidental. So, like, from what you're saying of having learned about machine learning and AI, you now are implementing that or experimenting with it as well. Was that a conscious decision to kind of use this knowledge, or did it just so happen to be like, oh, wait, I've kind of done something like that before?
Well, I wouldn't say it was a conscious decision. I mean, I didn't anticipate the blow up of Chat GPT-3 and whatnot.
Yeah.
But the thing is that, AI and machine learning are things that have like always like existed. And a lot of smart companies have been using to innovate for some time now. So like even from the little things like your email, typing an email on Gmail and having it like completed for you, or your facial recognition stuff on your phone. It's just like these companies never really like brandished it as, oh, we're doing some innovative AI stuff, and now ChatGPT brought it about. So it just so happened to be like one of the tools that we used at the time at Paystack on the team. You know, obviously having a data team and being a big company, these are things that you're largely predisposed to. But yeah, and now it's become an industry thing. And of course, we're gonna like tap into the opportunity to like also bring it here. And luckily for them, it's something that I've also done before. So, you know, it's a win-win.
Win-win, absolutely. So that's your time or your kind of career thus far in product design. It'd be cool now to talk about With Kingdom, so your startup that you co-founded. So you can tell us a little bit more about what With Kingdom is and how it came about.
Yeah, so it's actually Kingdom. The with is because like there are a lot of we had some SEO issues, just like fighting for that name. So we had to add, we had to add the with, but like you know, to us we call it Kingdom, and to investors. And Kingdom was basically we got the idea to start it from observing businesses struggle with the traditional channels of payment. You know, while working in the fintech industry myself, I was privy to seeing things like, you know, transactions taking 3 to 5 days to get across, or, you know, hefty transaction fees depending on how much you're transacting, and businesses just having an all-around difficult time because of like regulations. If you ever tried to like send money from Scotland to Mexico, for example, you're gonna see you're gonna have a pretty tough time.
Yeah, like a week.
Exactly.
You would be as well sending it by plane and cash.
And even then you have restrictions based on how much you can carry, right? So it's crazy. And of course, like these were limitations that we saw an opportunity to solve with like the new blockchain technology and decentralized finance. So we were making it we thought about making it possible to overcome for businesses to overcome these struggles. And together with my co-founders, we decided to like dive in and try to build something, right? And the goal was to like just make it easier for businesses to move money around globally. And so we started out with that. In terms of like challenges, I have done like a lot of 0 to 1 projects working on teams, but I'd say like this was like my first time owning one and being fully responsible for the outcomes of it. So more so like being responsible for the entire product function. So I had to learn to be like a strategic product leader, you know, manage stakeholders. I was managing stakeholders before, but this was a different level because now you're talking about like investors, and you're talking about your team as well. And you have to find the right people to work with and make sure that you're building the right thing. And also make sure that everybody is aligned on the idea of what you're building so that you guys can build fast enough and whatnot. So some of these qualities were stuff that having worked in product design, leading a product design team, and also like managing stakeholders on a day-to-day basis already prepared me for, you know, similar qualities. But yeah, a lot of them I had to like upskill professionally myself. So yeah.
How big did the team get for Kingdom?
How
large was the team? Like how many employees was there?
Oh, we were a team of 15. Actually. We stayed lean most of it. We were just 3 executives because I had 2 co-founders, then the product function, then engineers predominantly, and 1 other product designer, because I also oversaw the design function. So we stayed as lean as possible. Oh, and marketing. Yeah. But I had to like double back on like finding those people and like getting them to like join the team and hiring. So it was pretty it was a hell of a time.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I was going to ask, was what kind of advice did you learn from the challenges of trying to build out a team and align the vision and kind of get them to believe in you and the product?
Okay. Well, there's a lot actually, starting from like getting investors to believe. You know, pitching to investors, you find that you learn something new with every pitch. There's always like some feedback or something that you could improve, so you do it. And you find that you have to figure out how to make them excited about the product and excited about what you're telling them. So I was infusing stuff like, you know, storytelling in our pitch deck, in the delivery of the presentation, what are the most important points we need to drive home? What are the things we want to emphasize on? How do we sell our team to make sure that they understand that we have what it takes to get the job done? Because that's also something you're going to want to drive home. And then finally, what the strategy you have for getting your startup to be, from getting your products from a startup to $1 billion business. That's like the golden question. They want to know how their investment is going to pan out. So you have to sell it with like that. This is my roadmap from getting from here to $1 billion, and that's why you should invest in the team. So that's for and I'd say that like being a product designer actually helped with a lot of these things, because from being solely responsible for the pitch deck, crafting out the pitch deck, creating the initial prototype with the team. I think these two things, the pitch deck and the visual prototype, really helped to sell the story, because then we were able to like drive points like, oh, this is the function of the product, and explain the fundamentals of how it runs using the new blockchain technology, and then what the business was trying to achieve through it. So in the end, like we managed to create a compelling story that it was basically compelling enough to get people on board. And I'd say that just having one of the superpowers, being a designer and being able to like visualize all the theories we had together as a team, and all our strategies as well, and making it emotional enough for people to connect with it, for investors to relate to the vision, was something that really helped. So
yeah, you've definitely sold me on this aspect that the product designer is like the core of the business.
Nice, and I'm doing a good job.
Yeah, you definitely are. And so Kingdom then, does it, if it was to deal with transactions, did it have to get integrated with banks and such?
Well, I think at most we avoided those, because that's the hiccup of traditional banking, right? Just having to like liaise with a lot of regulators, get X license and whatnot. But by leaning into like third-party integrations with people that already had these licenses, it really like just helped us like scale fast. I mean, of course, it wasn't cheap, but yeah, at least just for starting off, you probably want to like avoid all those like regulatory hiccups. Typically, what we see is that maybe after your business has scaled enough, then you have enough money to get your own license, and you probably have enough time and resources to dedicate to getting that. But if it's for an idea you want to validate, or like a business you want to take off real quick, I definitely advise just like leaning into third party regulation.
Yeah, no, definitely, because that's it. Is you try and, or people often try and move into that DeFi space, and then they find themselves getting like pulled into the normal world of banking, just with a fancy DeFi name. The acquisition to FutureAfrica of the project, was that something which they approached you, or was this you were having to try and pitch it still?
Oh, I think they were always on board. So when the time came, it's something that just it just naturally happened.
Yeah.
At least at the time when we saw an opportunity and we took it. But basically, like we always had a connection to FutureAfrica, and they always had like a legitimate interest in the business. So
yeah, no, good. And so they still have any interest in the fintech space at the moment? Or are you watching it?
I definitely do still have interest in the fintech space, but I think more so now I'm more interested in like developments with artificial intelligence and machine learning, probably because of like practicing day to day and just like seeing the possibilities with it. And funny enough, it's something that they actually go quite well together, fintech and AI. So who knows, maybe in the future. But now my time in marketing is it's fun. So I'm seeing about
enjoying it. Yeah. No, that's good. And it appears as well from Kingdom and then now with Flick that you're always like, you're on top of these trends too, which is cool to see. Like you were in it at the Web3 and then you're in it now, like the AI thing. Is that coincidental, or is that something that you try to follow, or does it just so happen that that's what you're interested in, and that's what's coming out?
I think it just so happens, at my core, I'm an innovator. So
Yeah.
if there's a new technology that makes it possible for me to do something that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to do a few weeks ago, of course, I want to see what it's about. Especially if Microsoft is investing like billions of dollars into it, you are going to want to see what it's about. So yeah, definitely.
Keep it on top of the new latest tech, because that's another theme as well that I've noticed in talking to people, is the two major themes for people in the tech industry is problem solving and then always learning. Like that's like the two main themes I find. And so for anyone who has, likes problem solving and learning new stuff all the time, I think it's definitely a good space to go into. The next thing
So that's something that you also enjoy.
Yeah, of course. And that, because that's the thing with me, I've always found like code, for instance, as being just an extension of logical problem solving, which was always something that I liked. And then I always liked learning new stuff as well. I'm bad for getting stuck in fads. So like I'm always like 100% into some new thing every month, being like, this is the coolest thing ever. It's not always technologies as well. It's like just random stuff. It can be anything. But yeah, and then
it's just general curiosity.
yeah, exactly. And then it always helps as well when you're in tech, when you want to make a positive change, and then also you a trend I find as well with people is they want to make like their lives easier. So they have like a love for learning, like they have a curious love for learning to make their work easier. So like for instance, like with automation and AI and stuff, which is quite cool because then you find something to automate what you're doing, and then you can now go and follow like a new interest.
Exactly. I feel like tech people are the most curious and lazy people.
Yeah,
Because like
exactly.
we're always trying to find something that makes it easier for us to like go do something else. So,
Yeah, exactly. So there you have it. If you're lazy, tech is the place for you to look. Because yeah, what is it? Lazy smart or something, I think they say. But the next thing I wanted to talk about is OpenSource Africa. What is OpenSource Africa? What's your role within the organization?
yeah, so essentially it's like leading a chapter, right? And what that entails is basically encouraging collaboration, innovation, and knowledge sharing within like communities in Africa around open source. Because I think initially, like when the world started discussing about open source, there was like little or no representation from the African space until the community was founded, and then part of a expansion strategies was to basically find people like myself who were going to be responsible for driving a lot of this like collaboration and getting people more into the open source space in different chapters of the African continent. So yeah, that's basically my role, like overseeing stuff like managing my community. I manage like the Yaba chapter of Nigeria, Lagos, and basically like overseeing like events and knowledge sharing sessions. It could be like online, in person, or whatnot, just like helping people come to learn about like open source and how they can contribute to the space, and also like helping people connect to other people with similar interests as well in the open source space.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. It's a good mission as well to have, because you're right. That's open source can be kind of like stuck within this, and almost like just like this American thing that people do, and maybe like the UK, and that's kind of it. But no, it's definitely something which is worthwhile, and that's the thing is, as you was alluding to earlier, like with payments in Africa and stuff, we need to get more connected in that regard, and open source development and the ability to contribute in that way is a major move in the right direction.
Do you have any particular interest in open source yourself?
Not myself, no. Unfortunately.
Well, you should,
I'll need
because
to
that,
get involved.
currently that's the future. Seeing as a lot of the recent developments are going the open source way, so you can tell that there's something there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's something like with Chat GPT, which is quite astonishing, is that that's open source and it's like the best text-based or linguistics-based AI that we have access to, and yeah, open source. So it does show. But that leads into then, and I'm just looking at time, a question I was going to have for you of, you're doing all this stuff. How do you manage doing all this stuff?
Okay. Okay. So I'd say, as I was saying earlier, like I've basically now turned into a project manager for my life. So
Okay.
I like literally, I'm not kidding you. My to-do list every week looks like a sprint board where I have like different projects, and I'm like, okay, so from X time to X time is one sprint. Now, what can we idealistically get done in one sprint? And like just break down all those tasks and try to tackle them as much as I can. I mean, but yeah, you find out with the more things you do, there's always something that isn't getting done, and you just have to like prioritize, based on what, like, how important is this thing? Is it like time based or is it not time based? Is it something you're like could do, or something that I should do, or something that I must do? So like it's personal time management in there. There's project management in there. There's also like delegation, actually, because sometimes I was actually entertaining the idea of looking for a personal assistant this year. So that might be something that I explore much later, particularly because I'm actually like putting out a course really soon.
Cool.
I might touch on that later on, but yeah. So at some point I realized that okay, maybe I might not fully be able to do all of these things alone. So I would get a personal assistant, or I could also lean into AI, because I've actually found a recent product. I might not be able to recall the name now, but I might plug it in the video later. It's an AI assistant that basically like does all the stuff that you need to do on your computer for you, and it can like carry out functions across like different websites and different products. So I'm on the wait list for that. Fingers crossed that they yeah, that they let me come
That would
on. But
save you a
yeah,
lot of money for a personal assistant as well.
yeah, it really would.
And
It really would. So yeah.
so for prioritization, well, first of all, actually, it's quite cool that you plan your life, like your business life, in the same way that everyone plans any project within tech. And it makes sense, because if that's the way people are doing it, running $1 billion companies, then why wouldn't you do it for yourself?
Exactly, right?
Exactly. But I was going to ask, with respects to prioritization, how do you work that out? Like, what's the metric used for that? Is it,
Yeah, so like I said, it depends, right? For like work-based stuff, obviously you know that it's based on it. You might be considering factors like time, impact, and especially like when you have to like report to your stakeholders, you want to make sure that you have everything in order before the reporting time. So you're structuring your project or your to-do list based on urgency and how soon you have to present an outcome, basically. So yeah, there's a lot of like time and what I consider to be a priority, what my team considers to be a priority, and what my manager or the CEO considers to be a priority, going into like prioritizing work task for myself. Then for personal projects, it's a lot more. There's also time, actually. There's time based stuff for personal projects, but it's more long term. Like how I set it up, like, okay, so in this project, this is the main goal of the project, like the PRD or whatnot. This is what we're trying to achieve. And then these are the things I need to get done to achieve them. This is a time limit I'm going to set. So I try to like give leeway, like in the space of a week, instead of like saying, oh, by X day, you have to have done this. So in the space of a week, you need to have done this. I set reminders. So I keep seeing the reminder. It's top of mind that this is something I need to have done. And especially if it's time-based. So I think time-based projects are more motivational because, you know, you have to get it done before X time, doesn't matter what. So you're going to get it done. But for personal projects that are more long-term, you have to like keep motivating yourself and setting like time blocks and reminders and keeping the end goal top of mind. Because when you break it down into a series of steps like that, sometimes you lose sight of what the bigger goal is. You know, say for example, you need to take out the trash. That's totally unrelated. Or rather, you need to maybe, let's say you need to like take a course on leveraging AI for building or designing better products, and you're like, oh shit, I'm tired today, you know, I don't want to take this lesson or whatever. But if you're keeping like the end goal top of mind, like, oh, I want to make sure that I can upskill and be like in the top 1% of talent by March, or I want to make sure, you know, whatnot, you'll be like more motivated to do it, especially if you've like broken it down in the sense where you can see that it's like, it's going to be like 30 minutes tops to complete one lesson and you're done. But you've essentially gone a step further towards achieving that long-term goal. So you can feel good about yourself, right? So yeah. And then you can see the progress bar in the sprint to show like the completion of everything with each step that you take.
Yeah.
So it's just like it's just like ways to trick your mind into like being productive or doing the things that you actually want to do and whatnot. So
yeah, definitely motivating yourself by getting that positive feedback loop, because that's sometimes it's good even just having like a to-do list that you can score out. It's like that motivation. But as you say as well, don't add take the trash out to the list, because I know sometimes like when you're trying to get out of a rut, you can often find yourself like writing down every single thing you have to do. But I think that's good advice which you give of have that larger goal in mind, because oftentimes you can get bogged down with just like the little thing, whatever it is. So say it's like even like exercise, for instance, and it's do 30 minutes of exercise and you're like, oh, I can't be bothered. But when you think of the longer term, what that's going to entail and what it's going to return to you, then you'd be more motivated to do it, for sure. And so then you were talking about your course, or you were going to talk about your future course. I'd like to hear about that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So I'm actually releasing it pretty soon, actually. Essentially, it started how to design products leveraging AI and machine learning, because I just thought to myself, I've actually been doing this for quite a while, and now it seems like a lot of designers I'm speaking to in my one-on-ones are like struggling with thinking about job displacement, because they're thinking, oh, the recent developments in AI can do all the things that we can do, so now we're going to be out of job pretty soon. And I'm just like, no, that's not the point. Technically we've been doing this, we have been using AI for a while. It's more about thinking about it in a collaborative sense, like what are the things that I can automate away in my job, like we were saying, and the things that I can now do that I couldn't do with this new technology enables me to do. So yeah, I'm basically just like, I'm structuring the course to help designers, or not just designers, basically tech professionals that are that want to quickly upskill, to think about like to highlight the benefits and opportunities of using machine learning to how you can leverage the knowledge to innovate in your day-to-day or in your team or your product, how you can like take advantage of new technology and focus on the opportunities and benefits, as opposed to being scared of what's not going to happen, because I don't think like any new MacBook has ever replaced and someone in tech. It's more like the people that are using it that replace the people that are scared of it. So I want people to come to the other side and be more motivated to learn how to use AI to their advantage. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be putting out the course by next month, actually. So I think I'll share the link. here to the landing page for people that are interested and want to sign up.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be happy to put it in the description because it does sound good. As that is what people often fear as that job displacement, but they don't realize that they should look at it from the viewpoint of how to leverage it as opposed to how it's gonna, wipe them out of a job or whatever. I was just saying earlier, with the assistants, it's once you can automate stuff, because everyone has a never-ending to-do list. Wouldn't it be good if you could just automate some of that away? Go do something else. Yeah.
And then we'll be curious to see what everybody is doing with their newfound time.
Yeah, exactly. They'll lead us to believe that we'll all be artists or something. That's what I always hear.
What a time to be alive.
No, absolutely. For sure. But do you have anything else you want to chat about whilst we're here? I say that we're just over in time, but I'm all good if you are.
No, I think that's pretty much it. I think I'm not sure we covered everything that you said you wanted to ask me. Is there anything else, or because of time, we're like pretty good?
For people who want to start like a startup, but they're kind of nervous and they don't know what to do, and maybe they don't know who to talk to, what advice would you give them to start this 0 to 1?
They don't know who to talk to. I'd say, like, when you say don't know who to talk to, is that in terms of like finding other people to share their idea with, or finding like investors to put money in, or just customers that might want to use it? Because it's different things, right? But I'd always say that, if you have an idea, give it a go. Like, really, what do you have to lose but like a few weekends and whatnot, and then the idea fails or whatever, but then you learn like something valuable that you're able to inject into something else. Chances are, like, the odds are just like it might be really great. You might actually have something, especially if you like stay close to people, because it should always start from people, right? If you have an idea and it's like, oh, I need this thing, and I think that maybe other people can need this thing, instead of like going straight ahead to like building it, you want to like actually just have a conversation with people and see, how do you currently solve this problem for yourself? Do you think that it's something that you need as well? Or it could also just be like most of the time we see like existing products that have already like done something that sparks an idea in our minds, and you just like, you should definitely like go for it regardless of competitors or whatever, as long as you're able to like establish, okay, let me put it this way, you should go for it, but only if you're able to explore like just a unique perspective that those existing products have not done, in such a way that can't be easily replicated. And I'll put it this way, when you're talking to people that currently like use an existing product, say for example Uber, or what's the other one called, Bolt, they'll always have like a particular they'll tell you how they use it. Oh, I like Uber, it's easy, I get on the app, blah blah blah. But then they'll probably pop in something like, but it's expensive, and like I have to take like, if I have to take like 5 Ubers to and fro during the week, I've spent like 1,000 grand, blah 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 blah. What you can pick from that conversation is, these people really care about price. My unique value proposition could be giving them rates that nobody else in the market can beat, even if Uber like cuts production costs or whatever. I doubt they have production costs because it's a marketplace, but that's just like an example, right? So that's why it's really important that when you have an idea, instead of like sitting and being scared about like trying it, you just like start talking to people, start like validating your idea by like trying to see if there's anything you're missing. Is there any insight that they could give you that would like add to that? And then ship fast. Immediately you see something that might actually be worth building on, you should definitely like build it. It's great like if you have the tools to build it yourself, you have development skills or design skills or whatever, and then you can make something solid and basically just what you want to get is a prototype. You don't have to have like the finished thing. You don't have to have, it's like the MVP, you know, the most revered term in tech, but you just need a prototype that you can put in front of people and say, look, this is what I'm trying to do. What do you think? What am I missing? Would you be interested in investing in this? And you want to really spend some time crafting the story of like what you're trying to sell, what you're trying to communicate to that person, because like a lot of stuff comes from that. You know, you want to look for a lot of avenues to put yourself out there, to put yourself and your prototype out there, get it in front of as many people as possible, and just really sell that unique value that you heard in your conversations that you want to build upon. And, you know, practice. The more you practice your pitches, because you're gonna, that's one thing about being a founder, you are going to pitch a lot. So you have to like, if you know, you have to get comfortable with it. There's no two ways about it. You're pitching to customers, you're pitching to investors, you're pitching to team members that you want to join your team, you're pitching to yourself in the morning. So you need to pitch. And then, yeah, you have to, you know, lean into your network and don't be shy to like try to establish new connections with people that you haven't spoken to before. So, you know, just ask around your network. Do you know anyone that might be willing to work on this or invest in this? Do you know anyone X, X, and X? And reach out to people, even though you don't know anyone, people that you seem like they have the skills you need, or they can help you in one way or the other. You know, at the end of the day, we're all just people, right?
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's good advice, because and I think that ending it on that, like that bit of advice, ending that on we're all just people, is the perfect point. Is it's so poignant that people have this idea, and I was actually just talking about this on the previous podcast when we were talking about networking, that people always think there's a logical process or like a process document to follow for everything, but it's like you're just a person, they're just a person, just, you know, just go and talk to them, or just be you. We're all just people here. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. But I think, yeah, that's probably all the questions that I'll have for today. So I have to run. But it's been a pleasure having you on, Lola. Been great to speak to you. And it's been great learning all about product design. Yeah, I kind of had no idea what it really entailed. As someone who's only really worked in like a kind of corporate siloed type structure, you don't know what you don't know. But it's illuminated just how important it is, which seems obvious now we're at the end of the conversation, that obviously the product is the company. So the company is built around the product, so it seems obvious now, but no, brilliant, and appreciate all the advice.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me with you. It was really, really nice to, you know, just share my story and have a nice chat about the tech industry and everything else that's going on in product design. So, yeah.
Pleasure. Well, take care and have, well, as your Dubai time, have a good evening.
Yeah, too.
Yeah, thank you. Take care.
All right.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.